Hi, good morning, and welcome to Business Transformation and Integration podcast. So, as you're aware, I do a podcast every month and talking about different areas of business, and I try to bring a guest every month from different aspects of the business. So today, my lovely guest is Georgie Blackburn. Georgie's experience is within the career sector, spans 20 years, and incorporates career guidance, recruitment, mentoring, careers research, and writing. She has helped multiple clients at all levels and industry sectors to discover their potential and find their way towards career fulfillment, including adult career changes, returners to work, executives, early careers, and students at school. So without further ado, welcome, Georgie.
Thank you, Lippy. Thanks for that introduction. It's great to be with you here today.
Great. And today we will have a lovely conversation talking about your aspects of career coach. How did you manage to become a career coach? So let's start with the fact that you are a career coach and you have started your private coaching practice in 2018, right?
That's right.
So tell us a little bit more about what led you to become a career coach.
Yeah, well, I think it's something that evolved over quite a few years, actually. I started out in recruitment and working on the agency side and then executive search side. Gave me a real feel for, supporting candidates and finding work for them. And I was always more interested in that side, the area of support, than I was on the kind of sales side of meeting targets and doing all that. I managed that quite well, but I didn't enjoy it as much. It wasn't what really gave me the satisfaction. It was more that knowing that someone felt really fulfilled about the job that they were in. So I sort of learned quite a lot from that work. And then I moved from there into occupational kind of research and writing, careers writing for publications, both online and in books and other resources. And it was actually during the induction period for that job that I got to work shadow a careers advisor in a school for a morning. And I would say that was a real kind of light bulb moment for me, seeing this advisor working with a student. And I just remember it so clearly, even though it's a while ago now, this kind of teenager who really didn't want to talk or open up. And through their conversation and through the skills of the advisor, we ended up with, she was able to really show a lot of spark and interest in a particular field of work, and came away just like, we got to know so much more about her and she felt so much better at the end of the session. I was like, oh my gosh, that's what I would love to do. But it took me, as I only just started my new job, it took me quite a while. I still worked in research and writing for probably 5 years. But then towards the end of that time, I managed to get onto a postgraduate course, which is the course that you need to work in schools in career guidance. And so I made the transition then into it. And then my work has really evolved, into coaching from there, and took me, eventually.
Awesome. Yeah. So in terms of, can you tell me about your ideal client and who would you, you have moved from schools to coaching. So would you still work with schools, or do you work with adult people more on the coaching side of things? So
yeah, well, I moved into coaching because I wanted to get that sort of longer term experience of supporting a client, rather than quite often in schools it can be just a one-off intervention. But I have maintained my work in schools. I feel it's really important to still give to those that are just starting out in work. So I'd still do 1 or 2 days a week in a school, and then the rest of my work is with adults or with private student clients as well. And yeah, I think having that mix of work is really interesting and keeps me really motivated.
It must be very rewarding. Schools working with different kind of teenagers, as you have mentioned. It must be very different kind of aspects you have to work with, right?
Yes, definitely. You don't know what you're going to get, any day, and who you're going to get to meet with, which is, it's fascinating work. But I don't think I could just do that now, and I really enjoy the mix of working with clients. And in terms of the ideal client, I think it's anyone really that's motivated to create some sort of change in their career. So that really could be any career stage, somebody feeling stuck, that's really unsure of the way forward, and that is willing to put in some effort and time, even if it's really difficult and there are lots of bumps on the road, but someone that wants to work with me to really gain that support.
So somebody willing to transform. And what about somebody doesn't know that they need to transform, because it's very difficult to identify when you need to transform. So your ideal client might be out there, but they don't know that they are stuck, because sometimes the feeling of stuck is more about going on as business as usual. And some people might really like that idea of business as usual, right? So how would you say that people are really stuck or they want to transform? Because it should be coming from within as an action that I need to transform. So what are the areas that you would love to work with them and help them achieve?
I think really sometimes a form of sort of motivational support can help them see. I mean, usually they will, if they've come to me, there will be some element of something isn't working out here. So whether they recognize that the exact changes they need to make, and that can really be different for different individuals, but usually they've got to a certain point where things have gone on for too long and they really are, to be able to actually reach out for that support. Now they are at a stage where they want to do something about it. It's the what they do about it that might be an area that I can really help them identify where they've got to a different stage. But sometimes, along the way, it will be feel safer for them to stay in what they're in, rather than push out of their comfort zone. So I really like a sort of form of motivational interviewing that helps them see, well, if they stayed the same in 12 months' time, what would that be like? What would that feel like? To help them really get under the surface of that, and to kind of really get into the visioning of it and the feeling of it and the intuition of it, not just the practical, well, it'd be okay, I don't be earning enough money, but no, what would that actually be like? And that can then be sometimes the motivator, like, I really don't want to be here in 12 months. And then we can vision with what could it be like, and what could be, and then work back and sort of do some backward action planning to help them see, okay, what steps could they take? And
it's about the self-realization and self-actuation in terms of how you want to move forward. And I know that earlier this year you have completed ILM Level 7 Executive Coaching and Mentoring qualification. So tell us a little bit about the program, and how did you enjoy how did it help in terms of moving further with your career development?
Yeah, well, it was great to meet you firstly on that program, Liv. It really was. And I think that's what I gained most out of, actually, when we had our weekend workshops and sort of meeting others from all different industries and walks of life, and sort of sparring off each other, really, and some of the peer-to-peer kind of coaching and mentoring that we did with each other. I really gained a lot from that. It was quite hard trying to fit it in around work and everything.
Yes. And also weekend, I remember like a weekend was like a whole day weekend, but as soon as we kind of connected within the team, it was talking about all different areas and how we can, and we were given different kind of, plans to do or develop. And it was really interesting to work on those aspects.
Definitely. And I think in terms of how it's helped with my business, and I think mostly I wanted to do it because I felt a little bit underconfident in working with executives. Even though I had worked at that level occasionally with people before, I thought, have I got the qualification for it? Have I got that kind of depth of experience? And so by doing all the pro bono work that we had to do, quite a lot of hours of coaching practice in order to get that qualification, that really got me just stuck in and just doing it. And I realized that actually the skills that I use as a coach can be, it's no different really, whether it's an executive or someone that's just starting out in their career, and you can apply those skills both ways. And so I think just for that confidence aspect of giving it a go and just getting
it definitely paints a different kind of ways of asking the question. It might be the same question but open-ended, and get to open up the other person to open up and talk about the challenges and about the areas they want to move forward with. I think that was really fascinating. So we will move forward a little bit in our discussions, and whenever I do this, without mention of COVID, it doesn't, we always, all discussion comes have certain aspect of COVID. So, and now we are at like 3 years or 2 years, just, it seems like long in the past, but did COVID impact the way we are working, and especially your ways of working? Did it impact on your ways of working? Was it a challenge, or was it an opportunity to think about new avenues of career?
Yeah, so great question. And I think actually for me, it was really positive. At first, it wasn't. It's because most of my work at the time was in schools, and then just with a small number of private clients that were very local to me. And if you remember, the schools kind of closed down fairly, straight away, really. And so I couldn't get into the schools, and it took quite a while. Some schools were better than others to get to do sort of online careers guidance appointments. So there was this kind of void in the middle, and I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And as a freelancer, that meant not getting paid as well. Yeah. So I very quickly thought, well, I need to I need to be able to work more online. And I'd always actually limited myself with online. I'd always thought for my private coaching that it all needed to be face to face. So therefore it was quite a limited geographical area that I could work within. So but straight away my private clients, I moved to FaceTime at first, and then eventually over to Zoom. I suddenly thought, actually, this works. I can do this. I can coach online, and I gradually sort of developed all my resources. I got a mentor for myself actually to support that transition as well. And I thought, I've got to grow this is really why I started up my business, was I wanted to work more with adults. So it's like this, I need to do this now. And so it kind of forced me into it, which was a really good thing. And from there, really
beyond your comfort zone, or was it kind of okay once you have kind of introduced yourself into the online ways of speaking to people and reaching out?
First a little bit, but I was surprised at how quickly I felt okay, fine with it. And I remember getting a client from like Barcelona, like really early on in that, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'd have never have thought I could work with anybody from different countries. And so it just opened up this field of opportunities, and it felt okay. Yeah, it did. I learned a lot, and I had to work hard behind the scenes to make it possible. But it's it was a really good experience.
That created a new normal, and we talk about new ways of working, new normal. People working in the tech industry, they have been always used to the ways of just reaching out to people through Teams call or Zoom, but I think it has opened up so many different avenues, and reaching out to people from, as you said, from different countries, different parts of the world. So yes, your reach of client is not just within one country. You can reach out to anyone at any point in time, depending on the flexibility of time you are willing to put forward for your business.
Yeah,
definitely. So in terms of, would you like to share a story about, I know it's a lot of goes into the privacy, but interesting how it has helped one of your client moving forward, working with you?
Yeah, sure, Olivia. I was having a think about this, and I thought, gosh, there's so many stories, and I don't think one's more important than another, or everyone goes on a journey and goes through some form of transformation through career coaching, and so many lovely stories that have come back, and lovely testimonials, but also just that feedback that you get when that people have made a change and done something significant, been on that journey. But there was one I was thinking that I thought might be interesting to share. As a client who was a fairly senior level in higher education, but the nature of her work meant she was on projects that were contracts, and for the past 6 years it had been like fixed term contracts, and every time a contract was coming to the end, she'd go through this wave of kind of anxiety and like, am I going to have work next month? And then it would always somehow would always come together and she would get something. But that real lack of unknown, and she wanted to move location, get a upscale with her house and different family situations, but just sort of didn't feel she could because of this nature of her contract. So when she came to me, it was coming towards the end again. And so, she talked about, well, it might work out. And I just remember we really looked at what that would be like then when that contract came to an end again, and how that is for her and how that feels. And it really uncovered some, really difficult things for her. And so we sort of talked through a plan of what she might be able to do, and what would it be like if she could raise this with her employer? What are the alternatives? What are the possibilities? We also looked outside of her current employment. Okay, what areas, where could she use her skill sets? Where was that? And I really genuinely saw the sort of rise in confidence of possibilities, and that kind of backing herself really and saying, actually, this isn't right that they can keep on doing this. And she'd never kind of raised it as a concern before. So we worked through that plan together, and she felt really supported. And she actually sort of had this meeting. She created, set up a meeting with her manager, explain the difficulties of working like that, and that she wouldn't be willing to continue to commit to doing that unless there was some more permanent to her role. And so her manager was actually quite supportive once she did raise it. And there ended up being a permanent opportunity within a different department that she was interviewed for, and that she successfully got. And
wow,
it just
brilliant. Yeah, that's great news. Yeah,
we also then managed to I managed to help her negotiate a higher level salary within because it would have been across about the same level, but we managed to, she managed to get much higher up in that pay band. So she came away obviously very, very happy that she'd done that. And I think just did her so much good to actually stand up to things and to say, this is
happy customers. It's about, nowadays it feels more about people need support, but it's just of understanding in terms of where we need support and how the support can carry on for the further reach, and giving the confidence back to the person is really important. And definitely that has impacted quite a lot of senior executive women. That has definitely impacted. And I was doing another podcast which was talking about how women are impacted in the COVID senior leadership team or senior executive people. Women have left the job compared to men. So that's a different subject, but I can totally relate to it in terms of, when we are going through that kind of transition journey, and what kind of anxiety level kicks in. And that's where you come in, Georgie, in terms of helping and supporting.
Yeah, I think just having somebody that's kind of on your side and that's outside of your normal friends and family kind of circle that might tell you just what you want to hear, but having that sort of impartial outside view, knowing that you're supported and backed with it, can really help with confidence levels. Yeah, so I find that quite a lot.
And sitting on the business transformation, I see a lot of CV coming through, because I try to recruit people for the business, for my clients, and also get there into that normal behavior. But sometimes, and I just want to hear more from you in terms of the career coach and writing the CV, sometimes the work people do doesn't come across very well in their CVs. It might be quite a long distance from, they might be using the jargons, they might be using the right words, but not sure, it doesn't quite come across in terms of what value they have provided doing the different kind of roles. So do you have any tips for the audience who are watching this podcast to see what they need to figure out, maybe 3 tips that they need to work on their CVs?
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, it could be a whole other podcast.
It could be a whole rewriting of a CV.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I think overall, the things that I see that people seem to struggle with most is really tailoring that CV to the role that they're going for. You could write a brilliant CV, but if it's not actually what the employer is looking for and not based around that, then you're not going to get that interview. So really tailoring, particularly that starting kind of profile section, to really get that, that highly, highly relevant and tailored. Much better to spend more time tailoring that than to fire it out to lots of different places, and you're much more likely to get more interviews that way. I think secondly, those kind of achievement statements, it's quite an art to get that into quite high impact, perhaps bullet points, about each of your roles, or for your general and your skills statements, or whichever format you're using. So I think really thinking about putting yourself at the center of it. Sometimes people say, oh, we did this and it was this and that, but no, getting really specific about what impact you had, what you did, and what difference that made. Not just about this was part of my job, but no, what impact did you have? So you can use it, like think about what the challenges were that you solved, thinking about answering some questions. Sometimes I turn it around on its head, and when I'm supporting clients, and think, well, what would have happened if you hadn't been there? What if if it was somebody else, or if it was, if you just weren't there to do that, what would the negative impact have been? And that can then help people to visualize oh yeah, actually I did do this, I did do that, and not to play down their roles. So to actually really, really think about that difference that you made, and some tangible, specific statements. And the other thing I'd say is the more facts and figures you can get can really help with those statements. So what percentage growth did that have? What efficiencies did you save on? What so anything that you can get of that, it makes it really punchy and interesting. And lastly, just really think about the layout, and is it easy to read? Is it easy to digest? Are there key bits of information there? The order of the bullet points of things can really matter. Those that are most important. People, employers, as if we just spend very little time actually deciding.
Exactly. And how much of time we usually spend in terms of sieving through the CV, maybe 30 seconds or 2 minutes. It depends on how many CVs are coming through the door for a particular role, and how much of time you're spending on it. Yes, somebody might be looking at great detail, but what is the normal length of, from your experience, how much people really dedicate in terms of looking at the CV?
I think when I did some research on this a while back, it was very little. It was surprisingly something like 8 seconds in that initial sift of do I read on or not? And there's a really interesting graphic you can see somewhere that shows the hotspots of where employers or recruiters are mostly looking at the CV, and it is that profile, it's that first job area, and maybe sort of key skills, and it's those areas. So if you've got something that's much lower down at the bottom of page 2,
AI generated these days, obviously people don't come to look at the CV until it has been sifted all by the system, right? So
so keywords, those in is really important as well. And I had a very creative client recently who was saying he just wasn't getting interviews, and we realized he'd got this amazingly creative, beautiful looking CV, but it actually wasn't getting through the bots, in the AI, because of the formatting that he'd used. Sometimes traditional boring format is actually the best. You can still be appealing and look good with that, but you may not get through.
Absolutely. No, that's great tips. Thank you for sharing that through this podcast. And I'm sure people will come to you in terms of discussing about their CVs and how you can make that more valuable and impactful for the business, for the organization. Lastly, we have come towards the end. And lastly, I would like to ask, do you have any offer to put forward for our audience who are watching this podcast?
Yeah, lovely. So anybody that would like to find out more about my coaching services, I'd really recommend going onto my website, which is www.georgieblackburn.co.uk. And from there, you can book in a free 30-minute consultation, completely no obligation. Start to think about what challenges you're facing and how I might be able to support those challenges. Maybe you might have a little takeaway there that you can use straight away. But you can find out any more about working with me as well, and whether it'd be a good fit to work together. And from there, I'd be really pleased to offer any of the listeners today to be able to have a discount on any of my coaching services, whichever one's right for you, which we'd gauge through that call. That could be a 15% discount off any of those services if you mention this podcast. So I'd be really pleased to offer that all the way through until the end of September.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Georgie. Thanks a lot. And thanks for coming to my show and sharing your great tips.
No problem.
Have a lovely day.
been really good to speak to you today, Lippy, and yeah, you have a great day too.
Take care.
All the best. Bye bye.
Bye.